In 1959, more than 5,000 people lived on a piece of concrete 6 acres wide, surrounded by open water on every side. They had schools, a cinema, a hospital. They had rooftop gardens maintained carefully against the salt air. And beneath all of it, half a mile underground, tunnels flooded regularly with seawater and methane. The men who worked those tunnels understood the terms of the arrangement. If something went wrong down there was nowhere to run that didn't require a boat and good weather. The sea walls surrounding the island were not built to protect the workers. They were built to protect the coal. Hashima Island sits 15 kilometers off the coast of Nagasaki in the East China Sea. 6.5 acres of engineered land raised over a coral reef through decades of concrete and labor, until no reef remained visible, and only the structures above it gave any sense of what was underneath. From a distance, the silhouette reads as something military. Walls, towers, angular mass at the waterline, the suggestion of something fortified, which is why the Japanese have always called it Gunkanjima, Battleship Island. Coal was first identified beneath the reef in the early 19th century. Mitsubishi acquired the island in 1890 and began converting it into something the industrial world hadn't quite attempted before: a fully self-contained city built on open water, with no horizontal room to expand. Every worker arrived by boat. Every kilogram of food, every liter of fresh water, every material for construction or repair had to be shipped in from the mainland. The island produced exactly one thing. Everything else was a cost. Over the following decades, Hashima grew upward. It developed Japan's first large-scale reinforced concrete apartment buildings, not as architectural ambition, but as the only viable answer to an absolute constraint of space. The seawalls were raised high enough to deflect most of the typhoons moving through the East China Sea in summer and autumn. Almost high enough. During the most severe storms, the island flooded. Workers who survived the worst of them described the particular experience of being trapped on a concrete platform in open water during a typhoon, with nowhere to go beyond the buildings that might or might not hold. The coal seams ran deep, and the tunnels followed them. Some extended out beneath the seafloor itself, submarine passages where the boundary between the mine and the ocean was a matter of engineering precision and nothing else. There are two versions of Hashima's history. The first concerns engineering and density, and the compressed social life of a community living at scales the modern city hadn't yet imagined. It is well documented and not difficult to find. The second version is harder. Between 1939 and 1945, Japan's wartime labor mobilization programs transported thousands of Korean and Chinese workers to the island. The conditions they were given were not the conditions of the established Japanese workforce. They were assigned to the deepest and most dangerous tunnel sections, the shafts most susceptible to flooding, the passages where methane concentrations made any open flame a permanent risk. Their housing was more crowded, their food rations were smaller, access to medical care was restricted. The exact number of deaths on Hashima during the war years has never been definitively established. Estimates in the historical record range from several hundred to over 1,000. The tunnels don't give up documentation easily, and the organizations that held records had their own reasons for managing what survived. When the war ended, the forced labor program ended with it. The island returned to its routines. No formal acknowledgement was made. No memorial was built. The workers who had spent years in those conditions were not included in Hashima's official histories for decades, and in some versions of those histories, they remain undercounted today. By the late 1950s, the island had settled into something its residents called normal life, which required a particular definition of normal on a platform surrounded by open water, where leaving required planning and weather. Children were born on the island, attended school there, grew into adults who had never known a different geography. The density at its peak exceeded 1,300 residents per hectare, higher by most measures than any other inhabited place on Earth. The buildings were close enough that the sounds of daily life moved through the concrete without interruption. In 1974, Mitsubishi announced the closure. The coal was running out. Petroleum had replaced it as Japan's primary energy source, and the economics of island mining no longer made sense. The evacuation was organized. Residents had time to pack. What they took, they took. What wouldn't fit remained exactly where it was. Furniture, appliances, kitchen utensils, children's school textbooks with names written on the inside covers. A game left mid-play on a table. A calendar open to a month that had since become a year and then a decade. The island was sealed. For 35 years, Hashima stood in the East China Sea without a single resident. The buildings decayed at their own pace, concrete spalling in layers, floors collapsing as the iron reinforcement inside them rusted through, the ocean finding every gap and working at it. Typhoons arrived on schedule, as they always had, and there was no one left to repair what they took. Limited tours were approved beginning in 2009. Visitors travel by boat from Nagasaki and walk a narrow perimeter path along the island's outer edge. The interior is sealed. From the walkway, you can look directly into collapsed rooms. Floors stacked on each other, where ceilings have given way. Furniture still positioned where it was left in 1974. Preserved in the way things are preserved when salt and slow decay are the only forces acting on them. In 2015, Hashima was inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List as part of Japan's Meiji Industrial Revolution sites. The designation triggered an immediate diplomatic dispute. South Korea formally demanded that Japan acknowledge the use of forced labor on the island and at similar wartime sites. Japan committed, during the negotiations preceding the listing, to ensuring that visitors would have access to complete historical information, including the wartime labor conditions. Whether that commitment has been honored in practice remains a matter of active disagreement between the two governments. The school textbooks left behind in 1974 are still somewhere inside the collapsed buildings. The children's names written on their covers are dissolving, slowly, into the salt and the decades. There are rooms on Hashima that no visitor has entered in 50 years. What is in them is undocumented, and some of what happened in the tunnels beneath them has never been fully counted.